Hey everyone, it's Richard. It's Monday night, 8 o'clock. Really good to see you here. I missed you guys. I've missed you guys. It's been 3 weeks since I last went live. And let me just fiddle around so I can actually see the screen. There we go. 3 weeks. Where's the time gone? Some of you will also be navigating things like school holidays, and certainly Mia broke up from school what feels like weeks ago. I think maybe it was nearly 3 weeks ago. So we had a theatre trip and I was going to live, but we couldn't get enough internet to go live. Last week I was in the States. I had a week in California, which was came about at the last minute. So anyway, here I am back with you. Say hi, let me know you're on. For those of you that have also been navigating school holidays, tell me about the school holiday. Either is it drama or is it joy? So I want to hear. Tell me. Well, it's crazy hot here. I mean, it's like pull yourself up a gin and tonic, or grab yourself an ice lolly and come and hang out for the next 20 minutes or so. But I know as Brits, we can never get it right? We complain when it's pouring with rain. Then we complain when it's sunny and too hot. So anyway, I'm enjoying the brightness and the light. A little bit hot and sticky at night, I have to say. A little bit hot for the pooch. The pooch is collapsed on the floor as we speak, panting, waiting for his second walk because it's just too hot. So so look, it's good to be back on. And as you know, certainly in the BTFI group, I've been posting last week about being in Carmel, California. If you're not in the BTFI group, head on over. We'll pop the link in so you can come and find us. And it's a group of entrepreneurs, business leaders, leaders within corporates, people that are looking to shake up their game a bit, disrupt their own thinking, get some advice and input around how they best run and manage themselves in their business and how they look after this thing, the mind piece. So if you're not already in it, come and hang out with us, because we're a pretty groovy bunch, I think. Anyway, so last week I had, as I said, it came about a bit as a bit of a surprise. So with a client, a client that I've worked with for a few years now, appeared and put the question to go, are you available in, like, this was like 7 days time, 8 days time? And like, of course I won't be. Oddly, with just moving a few things around, I could be available. So I spent the week with a team, with a senior leadership team in this business for a day. And then we had 60 other people rock up for the next 2 days. They're going through possibly the biggest transformation in their history. It's a massively exciting time for them, and they're working at pace. So a group of people coming together to build something very new for this business. And not just about the new organization that they're building, but also very new relationships. A lot of people taking on new jobs, being moved up, being moved across. They're having new teams, and they're having to work crazy fast, like crazy fast. And of course, one of the core components of our conversations over the week leading up to it was around how do we start to build out this trust. There's I guess a piece of it was about trusting themselves and having their own backs as individuals. How do you trust yourself to step into the fray, to step up to the line? But also, how are they building trust within this new dynamic? And very often I hear people talk about, trust can take years to build. I haven't got time to build trust fast. Trust can be built in a second, right? Trust can be built in a nanosecond, and it can also be destroyed in a second. And we have to know the parameters that we're playing in, that we're playing a real fine line with the building of trust and the breaking of trust. And in a team of 60 coming together, and you've got to think about their wider teams of a few thousand people at least, they've got to work really fast to start thinking about how they are showing up in a way that demonstrates trust to their teams, but also builds trust within their teams. So it felt like trust was a really good one to pick up on. And I think for me, I was really aware of, although I'd worked with this organization for 3 years or so, and I've done some pretty big gigs with them and some significant programs, that the person that commissioned me to do this piece of work didn't know me. So she worked on recommendation and we had one 40-minute call. And I'm just very mindful that she had to make quite a quick decision on trust about me based on what she knew, but based on that very instant experience of me. And then whilst I'm there, I'm incredibly mindful that and humbled by the fact that people trust me with their stuff, and they trust me to manage their stuff and to look after their people. So it was a pretty intense 3 days, and we had some tough conversations in that time, and we also did some really deep work, some deep inner work. And I talk a lot about, we've got to do the inner work before we do the outer work, and loads of organizations are fixated on making the outer work stuff, the outer stuff work, blah, 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 jet lag. I can use the jet lag excuse for at least another week. Make the outer stuff work, when actually we have to remember we got to come back to do the inner work, to do our inner personal work, to do the inner work of the team. And trust is one of those really strong components. So we're going to spend a bit of time talking about trust, and I want to share with you one of the models that I use quite a lot. And I thought it would also be useful to share I think I have a very different view on life and view on organizations based on my history of music and theatre, where trust actually sits in my map. Trust sits right at the very heart of being able to build extraordinary performance and being able to build extraordinary theatrical experiences for people. And for me, my tough learning ground was college, obviously, because that's in the world of theatre, that's your tough learning ground. And then when you get ejected from college, ready to start working, in my first contract with doing Les Miserables in London, and for those of you that have seen it, it's a pretty complex show. It's a very busy show. There's a lot going on a lot of the time. So there's orchestrally very busy. Backstage is very busy with pieces of scenery, big pieces of scenery, potentially dangerous pieces of scenery. There's a big cast. You've got kids around too, which adds into the mix. Complex lighting. Generally, it's just the whole 3.5 hours backstage is busy. And there is a massive reliance upon trust at the very heart of every decision that is made. So you're relying on people to be brilliant musicians, be brilliant makeup artists, do wigs brilliantly, vocally be brilliant, conduct the orchestra in a brilliant way. You're reliant upon all that, but you're also very reliant upon that in the moment stuff that happens, that people are going to show up at that point. And when someone is there, you have like 15 seconds to do a wig change and the costume change. You trust that they're just going to be there. And if we don't trust, then we create all kinds of internal dynamics and chaos, but also chaos backstage. And so there's that reliance upon, I know that you're going to do your thing, and then we have to let go of that. We have to release from it and trust that that person will be there to do that thing. And you know what? Sometimes, fucking hell, they're not there. The wig person won't be there to do your wig. I had that once. I had costume people not there. And stuff gets confused, and stuff, I say, in a complex space and fast and hot, and noisy, and people lose it. So stuff doesn't always happen, and then we're reliant in that moment to come up with a solution, do something that works, find a way through it in that moment. But also then about how do you rebuild that trust in that moment of going, what happens the next time? Are they going to be there the next time? And my experience in theatre is that if you fuck that stuff up, you generally only fuck it up once. You got one chance. And people are pretty forgiving some of the time. I was always, I think, a pretty forgiving performer and musician and what have you. Some aren't quite as forgiving, but the next time that person is there pretty much, right? So that trust might be broken and it's reformed again really quickly, because it's a non-negotiable. Without the trust, the show doesn't stack up. And I don't think businesses always work the same way. And this came out in some of the conversations we had last week, that trust in an organization, if it's broken, we're not always as quick to repair it. We're not always as quick to find ways in which to build the bridges back again. And without it, certainly for this client, if the trust is damaged in any way in the kind of this whole matrix of relationships, we have a real problem. So look, what I'm going to do is the easiest way to rather than attempting to draw this up on a flip chart, which is a bit rubbish, I'm just going to share my screen with you. So sit tight for a second, people. Lick on your ice lolly. Have a sip of your gin. There we go. Share screen. And we want that one. And we want that one there. There we go. Look, you see, you got me and you got some nice bright green. How gorgeous is that? I want to share this screen first because I think this really helps to explode a few of those kind of shitty myths that we have about trust, and maybe just give you a bit of a spin. I like this first one. I'm not going to go through all of these. You can read these yourselves. Trust is a nice to have, soft social virtue. And I think when we flip it into business, it is a hard-edged economic driver. And it always affects two measurable outcomes of speed and cost. And I don't think we always recognize the importance of, we don't always see the benefits when we have the trust. It just becomes a bit of a given, but we don't see the cost and the consequence when trust is damaged in some way. I like this one here, which I've already said to you about. There we go. Where's the one about trust is slow? You know, nothing is as fast as the speed of trust. It's fast, right? It's super fast. And I like the one in there about you can't teach trust. Trust can be taught and learned. So although we think it isn't a teachable quality, actually the value of it, I haven't met many people yet where the value of it doesn't exist. And then we go, and it's about order of priority and hierarchy in our life. So there's just a bit of a myth explosion for you. Think about any of these. Maybe you've got some others. Maybe you've got some other rules that you think about trust. Put them in. Tell me. Maybe also there's some myths you hear about trust that you go, it's bullshit. Maybe you disagree with some of these ones. That's okay too. Tell me what you think. I think this is quite a nice spin. And I love the one in there about trusting people is too risky. And I hear that, oh, it's a risk if I give my trust over. And I go the other way, which is actually not trusting people is a way greater risk. We just don't always realize it in the moment. We realize it when it kicks our backside at some point, but we don't realize it in the moment. Okay, so let me flip on. By the way, if you're posting questions, that's okay too, and I can't see them. So Kelly will pick them up if you put any through, and yeah, I can't see any of them. So, but that's all good. They'll come through to me. So if you've got questions, pop them in. So, right. So this is some work that you'll have heard me talk before about Richard Barrett and his values model. So I use his values tool, his cultural transformation tool, which I think is brilliant. I love his work. He spent 40 years studying values within individuals, within teams and cultures, within communities, across countries. It's just the most, he's the most awesome man with his work. And check him out if you like. Check out the Barrett Values Center. Okay, so this is his breakdown of trust, that within trust, we have those two core components at the top there, which is around character, which is about personality, and then it's about the component of competence, which is about your capability. Now, very often, I think I hear a lot in organizations that when trust is broken, it's often about a capability piece that people are blaming on a competence, that they can't do that thing. And in Barrett's research, what he talks about a great deal is that the character component of it, the personality piece, the style piece, actually is massively important and very often will outweigh the competence and capability. So we're going to go on to a page in a minute which has got a bit more detail on these, and I'm just going to get you to start thinking about them. But within character, we have then two core values that sit there around intent, which is about our intent for others, our intent for the project, our intent for the group of people. So generally the intention with which we show up, and about our integrity. So how much integrity do we build? And within there, you'll see also the three values that sit within each one. So with intent, we've got the value around caring, transparency and openness. And with integrity, we've got honesty, fairness and authenticity. So even now, as you look at those, as you look in the mirror, just start having a think about how those words even resonate with you. Some of those you'll go, absolutely, that is one of the basic foundations of value set for me. And of course, therefore, if it's right at the very heart of the values that you live from, then the behaviors that fall out of that would tend to be pretty consistent if you believe it's up there in your hierarchy of values. Of course, if there's some words in there you go, oh, interesting. Fairness. How does fairness come into play? What are some of the other values that sit around fairness that mean, do I make a decision to play fair, act fair, make decisions that I believe to be fair or not? Because if fairness isn't a high value to you, then perhaps some of the behaviors associated with it are not going to be consistent. There's going to be more of a, there's going to be more chosen moments between that person and that person. So then within competence, we've also got two core qualities and values within there, which is around capability. So that's about skills, the skills we bring, the knowledge we bring, and the experience we bring. This is about our history. What do we already show up with? And then our results, which are based on reputation. So what does the rest of the world say about us? About our credibility. So that might be letters after our name. It might be the type of work we've already done in the past. And then then within that, about our performance. So actually, what is it we have delivered on in the past? And if I think about the decision that was made to get me out to the US, which was quite a big piece of trust on someone's part, much of it was around the competency end. So for this individual, very much driven around what did I already show up with? So did I have history? Did I have experience? Did I come with knowledge? Had people that worked with me before believe that I had delivered, that I was credible, that I had the skills in order to be able to work with this team in the space that they were in. That was, I know for a fact, that was very much a decision-making process. So hey, look, as you look at this, have a think about the relationships that you have where you believe trust is strong, and your own trust of yourself and your own trust of the other people is strong, so it's high. And also have a think about the relationships where it isn't, where you know you need to put some energy and some effort and some time into building trust. So even as you look at this right now, where are your hotspots? Before we go into the slightly more detailed version, where are your hotspots? Your touch points, your sweet spots where you go, that just works for me. That's just there. It's a given. It's a non-negotiable. It's right at the very heart. And perhaps one or two where you think maybe that just needs to be, this is analog, right? All of these are analog. It's not digital. It's not full value or no value. It's on a continuum. We turn it up. And just think about which one of these perhaps do you need to turn up. Certainly for some of you that, I know there's quite a lot in the group that are new to business, that are running their own business, that have just left a corporate and are setting themselves up. So actually how you establish trust with clients and customers and people in a team, perhaps for the first time you're going to be running a team and recruiting people, actually where do you think you need to put some emphasis and a bit of energy? So in terms of building new client base and getting people to believe in you, the competence piece will be really important about how do you show up with, how do you demonstrate some experience? How do you demonstrate a skill set? How do you show credibility in your work? So when we go, there isn't always a history to show. There isn't always 20 years of performance and results to show. So then how do we give people a very immediate experience of being credible, of having knowledge, of understanding where our gaps are and where we need to make learning? And on the flip side then too, about our character, what do you want to be known as? What's your brand as an individual? What's your brand within a new business? So therefore, how are you going to play authentically? It's tough. I remember setting up BTFI and that moment of going, I want to play authentic. And then I also really want to get customers. I really want to get clients. I really want to get people that want to work with me. And then how much do we sometimes feel as though we need to put a mask on or compromise authenticity in order to get a piece of work? And I learned that quite a hard way up front, because I ended up with some pieces of work and some clients that actually I didn't really want. It wasn't a perfect fit, but I'd perhaps gone after it just not for quite the right reason. So in terms of setting up a business, if you're just starting to run a business, this is really important, how you establish your trust markers. So look, I want to flick on to the next page, which has got a lot of words on, just warning you. And that's okay too. And this is the next page, which is about the components of trust. I just need to move that. Oh, you can I just move that screen? Can I move that screen? No, I can't move the screen. There we go. Okay, so So this breaks it down a little bit more and tells you a bit more about each of the values within there. So you've got, it's the same matrix as before. And this time we just have a few words that describe that quality. So there we talked a bit about authenticity, about being consistent and sincere in thought, word, and action in all situations. Some pretty big generalizations in there, aren't there? To be consistent and sincere in thought, in word, and in action, and in all situations. Just think how much at times you perhaps compromise your authenticity, where you go, well, yeah, it's true in all those situations, but in that situation, turn it down a little bit. So just thinking about this, just that, this is kind of that real self-reflecting feedback piece, taking a moment to think about where you play big in these and where you play a little bit smaller. So I love this as an exercise with teams. I often put this up with a team and I get them just to think about, so as a team conversation, go and stick a red dot for where you think you need to do a bit more work on this, and put a green dot for where you think this is really working, this value is in place. And it just begins to unravel a dialogue for us to go, so actually what conversation do we need to have about how we establish and nurture trust within this team? So maybe that's a great place for you to do. I'm going to do stickers, but I just want you to think about, as you look through here, which ones of these right now, which of these values and these qualities do you need to put some energy into? Do you need to put some emphasis on honing? And it might be in one relationship. Maybe that's a good starting place, is to go, so what relationship right now do I want to improve? Do I want to establish greater, better, deeper trust with? And therefore, what's it going to take? Which of these quadrants need some attention and some energy? And you'll have heard me talk before probably about, you know, the three choices that we have in life are three filters around what we control, what we influence, and what we accept. So we have that which we control in our life, that which is within our gift. So it's within our gift to show up with all of these values in place. It is within your gift to choose that and to be consistent with it. Okay, so that's the control piece. We control that. We control our reactions, our thoughts, our feelings, our attitude, our mood, our behaviors, our responses. We control that. If we don't control it, it goes into our influence bucket. So it's not within our gift to control, but we have a massive influence. And then if we neither control nor influence, there's an accept piece that says that is not ours, that is not within our gift to improve, make better, do anything with. So therefore, it's our stuff to leave. And I think that's really important when we start to think about building trust with others and building trust within teams, what it is we control. And I heard this from, you know, some people last week about, you know, that feeling of they put in their control bucket, building trust within their team. I go, hang on, kind of just rein it in a bit, because you don't control that piece. You don't control establishing trust within the team. You don't control that other people choose to trust you. You don't control that other people will trust each other. What you do control is being really clear and consistent on what you stand for, on the values that matter to you, and then acting in a way that is in alignment with them. So that's about congruence. You control that piece. You just don't control what you get back from it. And it's really important that you make that distinction, because I see a lot of people stuff themselves up when they pile everything into their control bucket. Other people's happiness, other people's trust, a team motivation. They pile it in there. You go, you just completely wrong foot yourself, because it's not within your control. So as you look at this, being really clear, and it's easy, isn't it? If we're frustrated with a relationship where the trust isn't in place, that we get frustrated that that other person isn't playing in a way that is fair, transparent, caring, honest. We get frustrated and we don't control it. You do control having the conversation about it, though. Control having the dialogue about you being honest, about you modeling these qualities, if that's what you want to get back. It's real adult stuff. And often when trust breaks down, we can start to go parent-child in the dynamics. This is about how do you play adult. Put the other person in adult and you show up in an adult way. So look, this is your challenge for this week, at least, if not a bit more, but certainly for this week, is to go, so what relationship right now is on your radar that you want to improve? that you want to be better, you want to have more choice, you just want it to move, even if it's one notch on the dial, which out of the character component and the competence component do you need to put some emphasis into? Think about it. And then think about, so then how do each of those values show up for you? So when we think about openness, okay, so take openness to be accepting and receptive to the ideas and opinions of all employees. So therefore, what does that mean? What does that mean about the style of conversation you're going to have? What does that mean about the quality of your listening? What does that mean about the non-verbal leakage, where you kind of nod like you're listening, but then there's that facial expression which says, bullshit. Those tiny pieces are the destroyers of trust. They destroy trust in an instant. So if openness is one you want to, if openness is one you want to build on, then think about, where do you have a relationship where that exists, where it's about being accepting and receptive to ideas and opinions of others, and what's different there? So what story is different in your head as opposed to this person, where you slam it down? And then we need to understand how you take that model and you map it across to this. But ultimately, it's about the story changing. The story in your head, if you believe this person isn't trustworthy, or you believe this person, you don't buy into them, or they're not believable, and that's going to hugely influence the way in which you choose to behave. So how does the story need to evolve? So that's your challenge for the week, people. You've got this to look at, refer to it. If you want to pop any questions in, pop questions in and tell me how you get on. Go really small, go 1 degree pieces, because these are quite big blobs. These are big values in themselves. So just choosing what's the piece, what's the tiny piece that you absolutely commit to. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and if I can, pause share. No, I actually want to stop share. Is that stop sharing? Stop sharing. Stop sharing. There we go. Back to me. So, so that's it for the week. Have a think about trust. Have a think about how it's showing up. Have a think about how you are working to build it. Think about how you can work to build it just a tiny bit more. So it's 8:30. It's so we've done a whole half an hour. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay cool. Get those fans on. Get your mini air conditioning units on. Have a super week. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. I'll be back next Monday at 8 o'clock. That's it for me. I'll be completely over jet lag by then. Have a good one. Loads of love. See you in a week. Bye. Bye. Bye.